Welcome back to the Becoming Relentless podcast. I am your host, Noa McCabe, and we are in a new studio, and the vibe check is amazing.
We love it. They did an incredible job. I wish
Yes.
y'all could all like sit here. Can you imagine? There's a little crowd.
Like a little audience.
Public speaking.
Yeah.
I'd get nervous. I'd get the sweats and then I'd probably start talking too much.
I'd probably be
Bro,
fidgeting around.
What's your nervous tick? Because mine used to be like being quiet and being like sweaty hands, I guess. Mine's still like sweaty hands, but mine is talking too much, like over talking.
Like getting all
Too
your
excited.
thoughts out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think my nervous tick is when I play with my hair.
Oh, you do that.
Like I do this a lot if I'm
I recognize
nervous.
it.
Yeah.
That's how I know when you're nervous because I'll look up at you. Like,
and I'm like combing my hair.
yeah. That's funny. I used to twirl it.
Yeah. I think it's a thinking thing as well. Like it's
Yeah.
a nervous twitch, but it's also like I'm
bro.
thinking.
You know, I had a bad one. Justin he hated this. I did this for the first like 2 years that we knew each other. I would pick out my nails when I was talking or like pick out my fingers whenever like I'm thinking. And he hated that. But now, because he would like get on to me and like hit my hands every time. And it would happen like 10 times a day.
Oh my gosh.
And so I eventually just stopped.
Broke the habit.
It's bad.
I feel like getting our nails done helps because then I don't pick as much, but I used to be the same.
Yeah. Picker.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, so I recognize when my anxiety is high mentally, if I'm in a mental fog or funk, because I find myself in the mirror picking at my face, which is like, and I'm like, why is my anxiety? Like, I know there's
something.
Yeah. And if I'm not picking, then I know like I'm in a calm state.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps.
I feel like everybody has their one little thing. It's just being aware of it because sometimes we don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to have somebody else point it out for me.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I feel like in a prep phase, I pick less. But only almost because like personally, you'll agree, since we've been doing this for so long, your first prep ever, you're like super stressed. You're like, have to be, am I giving enough? Am I doing enough? Like, is there changes every day kind of thing? And now that we've done it so much, like, you know how to achieve changes every day, but we also know like trust the process. Like some days are going to look flat, some days are going to look full, some days you are going to like supposed to be spilled over kind of thing. And so I know that since we know that, we just like stress is way lower.
Yeah. I think at this point we've done enough preps that we know if we trust in the process and we just kind of let it flow, it's all going to come together.
Yeah.
But I was, definitely first prep, very high stress.
Every person, I feel like.
Yeah.
Man, when was your first prep? How long ago?
First prep was in 2017.
Those 5 years? The 6 years ago?
I'm trying to think. How long ago was that? 17 to
We're in 23 right now.
6 years?
Yeah.
Whoa.
About to be in 24 in what, 6 months? Is it 6 or 5? Same thing.
I honestly, math is not working for my brain right
That's
now.
right. I think we've talked about this. You're not good at.
I'm working on my math skills.
Dude, but you're good at writing, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Remember, in like elementary, I was really good at math. And then I got to like high school and like it plummeted. And I was like, wait a sec, I used to be smart in this class and I'm like horrible.
And now it's yeah.
But, you know, things happen.
It does. So in college, like I never took calculus. The farthest I've gone, I think, was pre-calc. Mm-hmm. And I was so bad at it that I was like, I'm just not gonna, we're not gonna pursue math. It's okay.
We're just gonna take a step back and go the other way.
Which is funny because I'm really good with macros and like really good with calorie counting, macros, training, like the plates. I can do that math. But when it comes to simple math, it takes me a minute. I'm like, calculator.
Someone else answer.
Yeah.
I feel that. That's super awesome. All right, let's do this. So today we're going to talk more about self-belief.
Yes.
Our journey
in contest prep, self-belief, self-doubt, mostly self-belief though. And this stemmed from somebody DM'd me on Instagram and she was saying that, so she's in contest prep. She's been on prep for a hot minute, like 20 plus weeks. And they were aiming for a national show, but she was asking me, how do you know when you're ready? And how do you know if it's self-doubt or if it's being realistic? Because she said she felt like she wasn't going to go pro, so she didn't know why she was doing this national show. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was just a really great question and a great topic because the bottom line is, do you have the self-belief? And if you don't believe that you can go pro or that you're going to go pro, then to me, I'm like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do the show. Like, I understand some people say like, oh, I just want to see where I land. But if you're going to a national show, it should be pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. You should have expectations. So first off, your coach should be real with you.
Yes.
Second of all, like if you go to a national stage and, for example, Justin's been there with both of us, like you're going to get top 5, but you're probably not going to go pro.
Right.
Kind of thing. So there's that expectation of like, okay, if we're going to crack top 5, let's at least get third spot. Mm-hmm. Or there's like, let's go pro. There's 2 separate goals. So expectations really big. But I do agree. If you have doubts in your mind that you're not going to go pro, you're not going to go pro. Like, it's not just to be like, oh my gosh, I actually did it when I believed I didn't. I couldn't be hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I've had to work on myself. I'm sure you have as well. But in my preps, there's been preps where I know I'm not going pro. Like my prep to Universe, I knew I wasn't going to go pro. I knew I looked good. I was going to get one of the top call-outs, but I didn't know like where at. And then I was there and I opened my hotel room door and I looked at my hotel because I booked the hotel, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. It wasn't the main hotel. The host hotel was one of their like sisters. And so I opened the door to the room and I was like, nah, I'm not going pro this. I'm not going pro. Like, there's no way I'm going pro this weekend in this hotel. I just knew it. I had the feeling. But I knew like it was going to be a good time. Like I was going to have a good outcome. It just wasn't going to be a pro card, which was right. I got 4th at that one.
Okay.
And then 3rd at nationals. I got 4th at that one. Universe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a while back. Universe just happened.
I know. This past weekend or 2 weekends ago. No.
Then it's North Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's nationals?
Then it's nationals.
Wait, North Americans. Then it's
amateur O. And then
dude,
nationals in December.
So I was on my elliptical yesterday doing my 500 and I was supposed to do amateur O in October. And I was like, how cool would it be if he just surprised me? But I know it's not going to happen because that's literally in like two not 2 weeks, but it feels like 2 weeks. But I was just like, how cool. I was supposed to do that show, but that's on me.
Well, you just weren't mentally like feeling engaged. That one. Yeah.
Which is something, again, with the person who's dealing with this issue. For one, if I feel like if you're giving your all, truly, all of it.
Yeah.
You have self-belief there.
Yep.
And if you know your physique is not pro ready, being real with yourself, but knowing that you can get a top 5 call out, like shooting for that goal instead is still something achievable.
It's still an achievement. Yeah, for sure. I think when I first joined TM and I hired Justin, we were supposed to do a show in June, like a local show. And I remember getting to May and I told him like, hey, I don't think I'm going to win. Like those words came out of my mouth. And looking back now, like that makes me kind of like throw up in my mouth. Like I can't believe I ever said that out loud. But I told him like that's how I was feeling at the time. Like, hey, I don't think I'm going to do well.
Yeah.
Like in this, it was going to be a Texas show, like local. And
what show was this? August? Texas Pro?
No, it was June.
You won the overall.
I was still an amateur.
But you won the overall at the August show, didn't you? Okay. That's the first time we met.
Yeah. So like looking back, I guess I didn't realize until like very recently. I was looking back over like the time that I've spent with Justin and TM and just kind of reflecting and looking back on everything. And I was like, oh man, like I actually had a lot of self-doubt when I joined TM. And through the process like of learning and growing and being with this team and like stepping into a leadership role, I realized that I've gained a lot of self-belief like through that. But I've also been in a place where I had a lot of self-doubt. And it was just really cool thinking about that because I went from like not thinking that I was going to do well in this June show. And Justin was like, okay, let's push back to July. So he pushed the show back. And then he goes, you know what? You should fly out here for the Texas Pro. Like it's a Pro-Am and let's do that. And it was in August. So I've done that thing where I push my prep back and it ends up paying off. So I don't know why this time, like I spent a lot of weeks like stressing about like, oh, my show got pushed back again. And like, I don't know when I'm going to compete because when I look back, I'm like, man, when I gave myself the time to have the self-belief and like build upon it, it turned out really good. Like only good things have come from pushing back. And I think sometimes it's important to take that time to like work on yourself. Like obviously in prep, you're kind of on like autopilot, like every variable's in check. Not autopilot that you're not trying, but like you're giving 100%.
They're non-negotiables. Everything's non-negotiable.
Exactly. Your non-negotiables are like on point. And self-belief is one of those non-negotiables, I think. Like you have to have self-belief.
That's something that I'm so happy you said that. Athletes, I'm gonna say most athletes that aren't high-level pros, I would say, don't have that on their list of non-negotiables. And that's something that's holding them back.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. I think your like common non-negotiables are cardio, training, diet, steps, water, sleep. But those are things that every bodybuilder is doing. And the mentality side of it, the self-belief and knowing that you can't achieve what you put your mind to is missing a lot of the time.
I will say, so I have two things to say. For one, do you feel like since you went pro, your self-belief has stepped into another power because you have achieved that goal?
I think so. I think it reached another level of, oh, like, shit, I'm a pro. But then at the same time, like another step has been taken or like there's a new goal, like a new mountain. So it's not necessarily like I'm starting over, but I have to push through new self-doubt and like continue to build on my self-belief that I've developed. Because there was like a time period where I was like, oh yeah, I did it. Like this is awesome. Like I'm so cool. I'm the best. And then now it's like, oh man, like I'm a new pro. I'm not the best at all. Like I got to work my way up there. But I just think that's part of the journey, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is. I do feel personally, I know when I do go pro, I'm going to have more self-belief. Just for one, it's going pro, that beginning part, like the first part of your journey of being an amateur is most of the time longer than all of us expect. And so I know going pro is probably a big achievement and allows your self-belief to grow.
It definitely does, because you put all this time in as an amateur working and prepping. And then when you accomplish that goal, it's almost like proving to yourself that, okay, my dreams and goals are achievable. I can do it.
So I will say one thing that I've come to a conclusion, I don't want to say that. I've always had a conclusion on this. One thing that I have been more actively thinking about and putting into my non-negotiables of life. So recently, obviously, this beginning of this year wasn't the best mental. I didn't have my priorities checked or straight for where I truly wanted to be. And now that I have a list of like priorities that serve me for where I want to go in life, and I've realized where I want to go with my bodybuilding and actively pushing that, I do realize that you have to be a bodybuilder 24/7. And that doesn't mean that on off seasons you can't have free meals or you can't have intuitive eating days or a whole off season of just intuitive eating and not tracking and not doing cardio. But the mindset of bodybuilding, the mindset you have to have towards bodybuilding and pushing yourself and the level that it requires from your energy mentally is what makes you a better bodybuilder and makes you go pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think that's come from, that like mindset shift that you've had, like the realization?
Yeah. Go on. I love when you ask. Okay, so when I first started with Justin, I heard him when I was 17. Might have been turning 18. 17 to 19 with him, I had the same mentality of bodybuilding was my life. Where I wanted to go was my life. I didn't care about friend groups. I didn't care about anything that wasn't a goal. The beginning of these 6 months, I would say the past year, ever since I had that bad prep where I went hyper, that definitely knocked my self-belief down a lot. And then the beginning of this year, I just didn't have my priorities in check for myself. So my mindset was shifted as well. But I always had that drive of, I know it's going to come back, where I have the same mindset where all that matters is my goals. All that matters is I wake up and I'm excited to train. I'm excited to be a bodybuilder. I'm excited to achieve these goals. And if you wake up and you don't think about the goals that you actually have and they're put to the side, that's where you lose the almost integrity towards the sport and progression.
Yeah. That makes sense. So do Do you think going hyper was something that you needed in that moment? Like, to like, was it, or,
say no.
or what's your perspective
Yes.
on that?
Well, I do believe everything happens for a reason. That show, I think it did happen because, well, obviously I wasn't going to go pro. I think if I would have gone pro that year, it just, it just wasn't my time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I needed to have it because that sucked.
Yeah.
But it did allow me to go through these falling points of life, like going towards rock bottom in different areas of my life that allowed me to. It's a wake up call of like, who do you really want to be, D? Like you have a choice right now. You could take this route in life towards these goals, which is more of a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, like young, like explore life kind of mentality, which is totally okay. Or there was the be a bodybuilder, go pro, be a leader, have a coaching roster that you actually want to build upon. And those are my goals. And not that I wouldn't achieve those. Like I could do the 21-year-old route and 20 and be 20 and achieve the older mentality goals in the future with more time. But I didn't want this part of, I didn't want that life over here.
Yeah.
That choice of choosing which route I wanted, it was going to come no matter what because of the age that I'm at. So I'm happy that I went hyper because I believe that it allowed me to have those falls early on. So I could choose not to have that course in life. So I could choose to have the bodybuilder, like achieve your goals, more mature mindset.
Yeah. After that happened and you were faced with these choices, do you feel like there was more self-doubt than before?
After I went hyper? Oh, yeah.
And like these, and you were trying to figure out.
So I didn't realize it right away. Like you don't let yourself believe certain things. For example, I'm working on this right now. I'm journaling. There's some things I don't want to journal because I don't want to write out the truth of what I'm worried about because I don't want it to become a reality. Yeah. And so I just kind of block it out, which I'm working on. But same thing with when this happened, I would say, so it happened in July. Until April of this year is when I allowed myself to realize that whole time from July to April, I didn't have any self-belief in my bodybuilding progress. Like, and I didn't because I fell. It's like an injury.
You're kind of going through the
motions. And that's not an
excuse,
but I was just like, I just didn't have it.
Like the passion or like the belief that I'm going to go pro this year. Like, that, it wasn't
I was just
there.
Like, disappointed in myself over something that was a natural disaster.
Like something that couldn't be controlled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just an excuse. But I do, it definitely knocked my self-belief. So at the beginning of this prep, I've been in it for like what, 4 weeks? I don't know. 4 weeks?
Anywhere from 8 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
We're not
Well,
sure.
I feel like we're in it for 8, but for the first 4 weeks, there was no changes to anything. So it's just like the mindset you're in prep.
Yeah.
Now that it's 4 weeks of changes, those 4 to 8 weeks, these past 4 to 8 weeks, I definitely realized that I just need to believe in myself. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to show up for my protocols like I need to be to win the goal. And I have the capabilities of winning the goal. But if I don't believe that I can win the goal now, like actually believe, not just tell myself and fake it, then I'm not going to show up for my protocols like I need to. And so switching the mindset allows me to make non-negotiables of where they need to be. If I don't switch the mindset, I'm not going to have these non-negotiables. Everything's going to be a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I resonate so heavily with that because like I've gone through the same thing, like different phases of that. And like 2 years ago, prepping for North Americans. So I won the overall at the Texas show. And then Justin was like, let's go to North Americans. And the expectation was for me to go pro. But it was the same thing. The self-belief maybe just like wasn't there because up until that point, the prep hadn't been too hard. Like it wasn't anything that I hadn't done before.
You gotta go to the trenches to like kind of, that's why people, I think trenches and prep is so important because it allows you to believe in yourself more. You come up, like that's people on stage who have the confidence have been in the trenches.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to be said. Like if your coach tells you, okay, 2 hours of cardio, one person might be like, oh, damn. Okay. But they go do it. Like they're like, damn it. I don't want to do this, but they do it anyways. And then there's that person that's like, I can't do that. And they just don't. Like the self-limiting belief is there. So that I feel like it's okay to be like, damn, like 2 hours of cardio, that's a lot. But then you go do it anyways because you believe that you can do it. Like,
And the time's going to pass anyways.
Yeah.
You can spend the time sitting there on your couch, doubting yourself for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen if you don't do it. You're just going to sit there for 2 hours. Those 2 hours could have been spent on the machine. You can still doubt yourself, but you're getting your cardio done. And I guarantee if you doubt yourself that entire time, those last 10 minutes are going to turn into self-belief.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I did it.
Exactly.
Yes. It is crazy but there's always a choice.
There is.
Yeah.
100%. And I feel like the person who DM'd me, she'd been in prep for like 20 weeks. So she was nearing the end, like 3 weeks out. And it's like, if you're having all of this self-doubt right now, you kind of just have to make the choice of like, nope, I have to go all in and believe that I can achieve this. And like shut off the voices in your head. Or pull out of prep, but you have to ask yourself, like, are you going to look back and regret it and wish that you had tried? Like, and it's okay if you're like, no, I'm not going to regret this. Like, I'm just done. I'm done with prep. I'm done with this. That's fine. That's your choice. But if you quit and you look back and you're just like, damn, I really let self-doubt get to me, that's going to be something that you have to think about for the rest of your life.
And I do feel like if you're 3 weeks out and you have self-doubt bad to the point where you're going to pull out, either A, you didn't give your prep your all. There was some protocols, there was some days where you cheated and you didn't show up for cardio, or you ate off your plan, or you did something that continually that held you back, or 2, you had self-belief the entire time and now you're just letting it out. So that's why I believe it's so important. It's something that I am doing with myself. As soon as prep starts, you might say 30 weeks of prep. That's a long time. Those first like 5-10 weeks, you're just getting used to it, right? There might be some times where you mess up. You go out too late, your cardio gets missed, and you're down on yourself. There might be some times like that. You
snooze your alarm.
Yeah. You're going to have some lows and highs, which is why I really am big on long preps, because longer preps allows you to get into that mentality and get your routine on, like, you're doing this. You're showing up every day. To have those times where you fail yourself and then you get back on. So you teach yourself that you don't want to have that bad feeling. But as soon as you start that prep, you have to change your mentality to believing in yourself and setting your non-negotiables. You have to. Like, it's the first step.
Do you think people should write it down?
Write it down.
Their non-negotiables? Like write down their list of non-negotiables?
If you're someone that, so I do believe, I think anything is good. If you're someone that doesn't like writing stuff down, like keep it in your phone, wallpaper, like list your non-negotiables on notes app,
your notes, and then
it, zoom in and like set it as your wallpaper. That's because you're always looking at your phone. Do it on a place where you always look. You wake up and you look at yourself, like put it on your mirror, stuff like that. So it's always on, like in front of your face. That's why people on social media who are always on social media, like you see their face every time you click on social media, you're eventually going to hire them.
Yeah.
You've seen them so much. You've seen what they preach so much. You follow them so much that you're eventually going to hire them. If you see someone who's really good at coaching one time a week on your phone or one time a month, you're not going to hire them because they're never there. Same thing with like your non-negotiables, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with self-belief. If you constantly show up for yourself, it's building upon. You're eventually going to invest in the self-belief that you have cultivating, because you're compiling the wins.
Yeah.
You're compiling seeing yourself show up. If you show up for yourself 1 time a week, 2 times a week, well, it's hard to hire or invest in yourself when you're only seeing yourself show up twice a week.
Let's say that somebody is like 100% on their plan, or so they think. Like, let's say that they believe that they're executing to the best of their ability, but they still are lacking a little bit of like self-belief or confidence. What do you think at that point they need? Do they need to communicate that with their coach? Is there something that they can do to improve like themselves from within?
I'm going to give 2 answers for this. number one, train harder. Do something in your protocols harder than you are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say train harder because there's always more to give in training. And sometimes in cardio, there's a limit of how much you should give just for recovery reasons, so you can give more into training.
Yeah.
So just train harder. Show yourself that you can do something harder, like every session. Whatever, even if that's curling 3 more reps than you did last time, like something small, like just
grabbing
do
a
it.
spotter and saying, we are getting 12.
Yeah,
and like
and
maybe you're
getting
only
13,
getting 8 and your
yeah.
spotter's getting the rest.
That
But like,
doesn't- but you checked off the box.
You're putting in that effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, knowing yourself. So that's why I'm big on alone time right now, and like trying something new is something I'm preaching. The creative outlet.
Yeah.
Do something that's pushing you forward that doesn't pertain to bodybuilding, and pushing you forward in terms of pushing you forward towards knowing yourself and self-discovery. Because if you have a separate, here's bodybuilding, it's prospering in a prep. If you have a separate something, not a relationship, not a friendship, something with yourself, a different commitment that's also prospering, you're going to find that your prep's prospering as well. So that's why like I'm drawing sometimes. I think having that other outlet that pushes yourself growth and worth and the lens that you view yourself in is going to help your self-belief in prep as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I definitely have learned a ton from you and Cess and Justin and Ross, everybody, Austin, Faith, like everybody on TM, they're executing on a level like across the board, not just in bodybuilding, that just like freaking inspires me so much. And I loved, you did a little canvas with like the lace on it, like that creative project.
Yep.
That was so freaking cool.
We can do it together.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
I went to the store. This is one of the things, trying something new alone by yourself that you've never done before.
Yeah.
I used to draw all the time. And so I started doodling on napkins with pen. And I was like, you know what? I recognize I want to do, like, I want to sit down and like do something. I want to create something on my own. And so I went to the Michaels, which is like Hobby Lobby basically. I bought canvases and pencils and paint and everything that's like cheap, because I don't know how good I am, and I just sat there and I just created stuff.
Yeah.
And that is the most therapeutic thing that I've done in a long time.
I think that's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and
I love that.
It came to this conclusion in my head, a little bit off topic, but I was like, and I share this on my story, we get asked in our Q&As, what do we like to do out of fitness? And all of us say the same thing. We all say, we like to dance, rave,
hang with our friends,
go out and walk, be outside. Everyone likes to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like to dance? Who doesn't like to be with friends? Who doesn't like to be outside?
Yeah.
All of us do. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you like? And a lot of us can't answer that. We look in the mirror, we don't even know who we are. And so when I was sitting there, I was like, okay, now I know what I like to do, what I like to do.
Yeah.
No one's doing this with me. If I invited you would come. If I invited Justin, he would be like, nah. Like, he'd be like, I'll watch you. But he probably wouldn't, like, no one really wants to actively choose, hey, let's go do this.
Yeah. It wouldn't be like the first on my list.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be like, let's do this together. Like, it's something that you wanted to do for yourself, by yourself.
Yes.
Because you enjoy it.
So I do the non-negotiables with, in my week, there's my self-time. Which right now I have a good schedule. I don't really pick a day. Usually it's 3 to 4 things that I do a week on my own. And I create this list of non-negotiables, and on the non-negotiables are like items of what I want to do alone in this week's span.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that has helped me a lot with my alone time, because I used to put pressure on, when I get my alone time this week, I'm going to go on a self date. Well, when you get your alone time, maybe you don't want to go on a self date.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to sit at home and like have a movie with yourself, or cook yourself a meal, or draw a picture on your own. So allowing yourself to have different outlets of what you want to do that week that's alone puts less pressure on actually forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do in that moment.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Like, that's so important. And not a lot of people get to like, or choose to do that with themselves. Like, I think
they feel weird.
Yeah.
But I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Like, when I was thinking about doing it, and then you just don't care, because I was sitting there and I came to the conclusion, like, with the Q&A, people ask, who are we outside of fitness? We don't know.
Yeah.
So we don't even know ourselves. So how are we supposed to have self-belief when we do a prep when we don't even know who we are?
Exactly.
So when I was creating this, I just let my mind be free. And that's so therapeutic. So finding things like that, an outlet that allows you to not think about anything but what you want in that moment, is just healthy for a prep phase as well.
Yeah. I think that's definitely overlooked. And I think a good takeaway would be, if you want to build your self-belief, like putting time and effort, not just into your prep, but into things across the board. And we've talked about that before too, like finding things outside of fitness, but it really has to do with like what you like to do. I like to bake. I wouldn't say I'm great at it. Like I've posted about my ugly banana bread.
It's fun.
But it's
fun
like,
not to be good.
Exactly. And even though, because people are like, well, how do you bake or cook? But like you're on prep, you can't eat it. And I'm like, dude, I love the smells. I love like mixing it. And like, yeah, I don't get to taste it, but then I can like give it to other people and they can tell me how it tastes. Like it is a very creative flow state. And even if I can't taste it, I know like I'm making something and then I can give it away.
That's something that's powerful. So what I've realized, I was saying this out loud to Jill, like Sage, because they're YouTube, they're pictures, and they're just creative people.
Yeah.
And I was telling them I want something that's mine. Something opposite, not in coaching, just something I create that allows a creative outlet that's mine, not prep, not bodybuilding, not coaching, not fitness. And I didn't know what it was and like what it could be. And Cess was saying like YouTube, but I tie YouTube into podcast, and that's its
like
own
work,
place.
sort
It's
of.
not. It's a different kind of creative outlet kind of thing. It's with the fitness. So, like baking, that's your creative outlet.
Yeah.
That's separate from anything. You create that on your own. No one's telling you what to do. No one's telling you. Don't have protocols
You
for
can
it.
choose your own
You don't have
ingredients.
anything. Yes. There's no non-negotiables for it. You can literally make it so ugly. It can match nothing.
Yeah.
It can look like absolutely nothing. I made my art, my lace picture. I sent it to my mom. I sent it to my dad. I sent it to Justin. And you know what they all said? What is it? Every single person said, what is it? And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. What do you mean, what is it? It's what
just
it looks
art.
like.
Yeah, I created this.
It's a canvas with stuff. And so, like, it was the coolest thing ever, though.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to look good. It doesn't have to taste good. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to allow you to feel free.
Yes.
And feel closer to yourself.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think that that's really powerful, like finding that for yourself. And so people listening, we encourage you to go out and find that for yourselves.
Yes. Push your self-discovery and self-belief, and it's going to push your prep as well.
Yes. Well, I know this was a bit of a shorter episode, but we will be back very soon. We hope that you feel more relentless than when you arrived and that you have ways to increase your self-belief.
If you need anything at all, DM us. We will always help you. Any ideas, literally just anything, DM us.
Yep. All right. Peace.
I hope y'all really enjoyed the podcast today, leaving it feeling more relentless than ever. But we have a few things that we would love to ask of you, so I'm going to give this over to Noa.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you could, I know that this is your new favorite podcast. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. Leave any comments and questions below. And make sure that you're sharing across social media so that all of your friends get to listen to the greatest podcast on earth.
And if you have any questions about any topics that we talk about or anything at all, fitness, competing related, anything, we'll hit you back up, Instagram or in the podcast under, if the comment box is there, then we will definitely answer your questions and help you out as best as we can.
Absolutely. So leave those 5-star reviews. Let us know, and we'll talk to y'all again soon.
Have a relentless day.
Bye.